Adios, Supiro.
Oh, hello there. Welcome back to the channel. This is Blurbox, and today I did something a little bit different. So I started with the video I've been working on for the last while first. Why, you ask? Because I was a bit lazy and I didn't record the entire process, and because it would have been hours and hours and hours, like hundreds of hours of footage. So today I'm just going to go through different animation principles and ideas about how I tackled the 5 or so scenes in this Indiana Jones short I did. So it'll save me time and it won't be an editing nightmare. Alright, this video I've been working on for a while. The animation took forever. I was unemployed, actually, so that helped. Thank goodness I was made redundant. And so it gave me some free time to slap this together, and I hope you liked it. It was a lot of fun doing it. I think it turned out alright, and yeah, so let me show you a couple of the things I did to animate that. So the thing about animating stuff off screen is you can generally leave it. I like to keep it posed out though, just so I have a good idea of balance and weight in what I'm doing. Yeah, so you can see here, these are foreground elements. When the camera moves up, you can see them move around to give it a sense of Z depth. And then over here, for composite reasons, I flipped it over. So when Indy walks over here, you get a little bit more of that foreground element. Okay, so Indy comes up here, gives Sapito a little salute, a little hat nod, and the build I made for Indy, there was a hat built in, but he takes it off here, so I had to duplicate the hat and put it outside the build, and I called it Thing. And that's the beauty of animating your own stuff. You can just name it whatever you want, and it's not going to confuse anyone. So when he takes the hat off, I switch out the build hat that's attached to his head, and I switch it for the hat prop, which I named correctly. So he does that. Adios, Sapido. Now, he walks here, but his lower half of his body is off screen. And I don't need to animate the walk there. I decided it's got lazy. Sometimes I'll just put in the keys, but I won't tween it, so I can see how the body kind of is balanced and how it's working. But you know, it's a bit stylized, so him just moving across screen and giving him a little bob up and down. The antics down here because he hears the ball coming, or the ground starts shaking. He doesn't know what it is yet. So he goes down his elbows, his shoulders go up. Most of the action is in the head. A little bit of stretch there, one of the principles of animation. And he squashes down, see the stretch there. Let me turn this thing off, because that is getting in the way. Yeah, so his head comes up, and his jaw, there's a little bit of stretch and squash, just to make it look more appealing. So the cartoon I'm working on, or the cartoon I worked on recently, contract finished, so I moved on. The director was very adamant that on a cut, there should be some animation, there should be some acting on a cut, because it looks more natural and it flows better. So that's what I did. I had him start the turn, and it cuts right here. Stops. Other things to look out for in this bit is there's a couple of arcs there. Yeah, so it goes like that. It's a nice arc where he starts at the top. There's a breakdown there, and then the end key is here. There's an overshoot and settle. And it's not many frames. It's amazing how much you can get away with by just having a few select in-betweens. There's some nice secondary. No, there's some nice overlapping action on his hat. It flops around a little bit, so it overshoots. Overshoots there, and then settles. It kind of goes up and then down. Oops, daisy, what the f. So it kind of goes up and down, kind of goes like that. This bit, the hat. Yeah, it begins to turn. Oh yeah, head turns. You want head turns on nice arcs. If it was more straight, a head turn that was more straight, it would just look robotic, so you want it to sort of you want the head turns to really dip down. You really want the head to dip down. So arcs, get a nice arc in there. Okay, so scene 2. So I was talking about in the previous scene 1, about cutting on an action. Oh, that arm is very ugly. That looks so. That's the thing about animation, is you can have one drawing that looks not great, like it looks kind of, yeah, looks kind of rubbish. But once it's all sewn together, it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so this one here, this is the tail end of that head turn I was talking about. Oh, let's do a better color than that. Okay, so like I was saying before, head turns. Arc, then it comes up into this. And I really exaggerated his eyes here. Just to, you know, it's cartoon. It's a bit cartoony. There's something about, I really like about, this hat's too big. I really like these sort of cartoony juxtaposed with the sort of violent stuff. I don't know what, but it has to be like really cartoony. I don't know why. Maybe I should ask my therapist. And I wanted to push the perspective here, so it's really forced. His head's quite big because his head is closer to the camera, and there's not much animation actually in this one. He does a blink and he kind of sighs. I kind of threw that in last minute, so it looks a bit rubbish, the mouth movement I'm talking about. I also included a shadow looming over him. His impending doom is coming. Alright, I also wanted to give it a sort of depth of field feeling. So if I block this off here, watch the background compared to Indy's head, and it moves quite a bit until his feet are in shot. Now, if you look at what you can see behind the scenes, his feet are sliding. I actually just moved him to give the effect of, well, it's like a lens depth, I suppose. Okay, scene 3. So this one is, it was a pain. It was a massive pain. Mainly because I decided to use a 3D background to get that tunnel effect. And it was a pain because Harmony is a 3D engine. Like if I go out here, you can see it's built in 3D with 2D elements. So here's the alligators here. These are just 2D. Right. And same with Indy. Indy's 2D as well. So Indy's 2D as well. But I basically created 2 corridors, and as he goes down, they kind of replace each other. I'll just show you. It's a lot easier. So he starts to move. And as he starts to move, in fact over here, this is what you see. he starts to move, and then you can see the ball fall in there. And right before the whole wave runs out of the room, I throw in another one there. And if you look closer, you can actually see the seams. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, there's one right there. But it's going so quick you don't even notice it, so it's fine. It's in that loop. Look at that. I mean, it works. It works well enough. The thing about this scene was it was getting too long, and it was taking up too much RAM on my computer. So I had to render it and then do the effects on top and all the different traps and stuff. And he dives out. Look how stupid he Look how dumb he looks there. Oh my goodness. The ball is just a flat image, and then to give it the rolling effect, I just have some textures in there that go downwards and give it a sort of grainy movement look. And this works. It's good enough. And these walls are just drawings that I rotated in 3D space. So if I click on this wall, if I go on the perspective, I can pull it out, and you can see that it's just a flat 3D, sorry, a flat 2D image that I boxed together, and it works fine. But yeah, these are just all vines that I did. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go into the comp stuff now and show you some animation. Okay, so like I said for the last scene, I rendered that one and I imported it into Harmony. This is just a 2D movie of the 3D background with Indy running forward, and this is where I started adding comp stuff. And stuff I added to this scene was, well, smoke effects, dust, fire. You can see fire here. I added the snake, some lighting stuff. So these dust effects, they're hand drawn, and I attached it. So these dust effects are hand drawn, and I attached an opacity node. Yeah, this one here. You can see from here to here, it goes from 0% transparency to 100, which makes it invisible, basically. Yeah, and it worked well enough. I wanted to use the dust to hide some of the unsightly seams that were popping up. So you can see just here, I turn this off, you can see where the background stops and chops and disappears. So I threw those on top to hide that, and it worked well enough. And okay, so animation. So we have Indy here, and he's looking up. So the previous shot, yeah, so scene 2, the camera was about here, and it was kind of going up like that. And so this one, the camera's switched behind him so we can get a long shot and a nice view down the hallway. So this movement here. So I have a cartoony antic. Indy goes up like that, and it keeps going up, and he holds it, and he's doing the Scooby-Doo thing with the runny legs. And then at the top here, I gave him a double antic, I guess. But it works. That works fine. He goes up just a bit more, and then he comes down, he stretches out. It's a double antic, he stretches out. And there's some overlapping action there with his arms. And then he squashes down. Bam. So, stretch and squash. That is basically the bouncing ball principle, except with limbs and heads and stuff. And then he shoots back up. So the run cycle was the very first thing I did for this scene. In fact, it's the very first bit of animation I did in the entire animation short. So, because it's in perspective and it's a bit cartoony, you know, it doesn't matter that, you know, his feet slides a little bit there at the front. When he gets closer to the camera and the camera's speeding up, it's less noticeable, so that's fine. Okay, runs. Now I did a video on runs. Okay, so runs. Now I did a video on runs a while ago. I did 3 different runs, and I did a clickbaity title to try and get people in. Okay, so runs. Let's do a quick tutorial on runs, real quick. Okay, so you have the stride, and then you have the contact, or the down, sometimes it's called. And then you have the passing there. Sometimes with faster runs, you don't include the passing, or you don't need to include the passing, but I did in this one because it's on ones. And then he starts to go up a little bit here. And then he's basically in the air here. No, he's absolutely in the air. And at this key, he's in the air. Whatever. But the point being is that's the up. Now, Cartoony runs, this wouldn't be the highest point, usually. I mean, sometimes it will be. But for this scene, it is. So, something like that. He's up. And he's leaning forward. Yeah, the run cycle repeats on the other side, and then it keeps going like that. And then most of the animation is on the top. Oh no. His ear. I just noticed that I have the wrong ear on. Just for the first part of this scene. That's fine, whatever. It switches back, I think. Okay, so this part here, he dodges these bloody spikes. Okay, and he runs and runs and runs until he gets to this point right here. And then I give him... Oh, he's dodging the spike, and I give him a nice, strong C-curve. Look at that. Bam. Line of action. Okay, and then I reverse that line of action, and I give him this. It's kind of like that as well. But if you want to make your animation interesting, reversing curves from one pose to the other will really sell your animation. Okay, so at this point, Indy's trying to dodge a sort of swinging trap thing. So I had him do a little dive, stretch him out quite a bit, and then he squashes a lot, and he sort of flips up and loses his balance for a second, keeps it, okay, and he keeps on going. Okay, this is a good example of bouncing balls. Okay, so in art school, when you're learning animation, one of the first things they teach you is a bouncing ball, and the reason why they do that is because that idea, that principle, applies to almost everything in animation. So let's take Indy here. Now imagine so what they would teach you is you would have a ball, and then they teach you to antic down, and then to jump up, stretch it up, and then get to the top, and it will go back to its original shape, and then come back down again. I did the same thing here with Indy. So just imagine he's a ball. He antics down here, bam, up he goes, gets to the top, falls back to his original size, scoots across here, and then when he comes down, that is the bouncy ball exercise on a human being. The snake is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a prop that comes in, wraps around Indy, and this is Adam, and then he whips him off. Bye-bye. He has a little look over his shoulder, and then he gets a cobweb to the face, and then he jumps out. This cobweb is just a shape like this, with deformers attached. So when it wraps around him, it gives the illusion that it's flapping in the wind as Indy runs forward and then he runs out. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We'll leave it there. Okay, so this is scene 4. I really like the way this scene has turned out. The background looks pretty good, the animation's alright, and it came together quite well. I exaggerated how high up the temple is. In the original, he kind of rolls out of a hole on the side of a hill and rolls down. but I really wanted to push it because it's a cartoon. And so I have him jumping out from like stories up, and I pushed it. So I originally was going to have him having this kind of pose all the way down. It would have been something like this. But that was boring. So what I did was I switched up the posing, and I have him sort of tumbling and falling. It looks more dramatic. Now what I want to talk about in this scene is the use of 1s and 2s. So at the top here, he reaches the top of the jump, and it's all on 2s. If you can see down here in the timeline, it's on 2s until about here, and it gets close to the camera, and then it switches to 1s. And you can kind of see how it speeds up at the end. The reason why I did that is because the closer an object is to the camera, the more obvious the in-betweens are. So if it's on 2s, when he comes closer to the camera down here, it would start strobing. It'd kind of pop his way down and it wouldn't be as appealing. So I have it on 1s. That's 24 frames a second. And yeah, I think it turned out alright. Like I said, I wanted a tumbling kind of feeling, and I think that's what you get. Yeah, I think it turned out alright. So we're going to move on to the next one, and then we'll be done. Okay, scene 5. This is the last scene. It's quite a quick one as well, and I'm not gonna drone on much about it, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Dust effects. He kind of tumbles down here, and he gets a kind of beat up face, a broken tooth, and it works. This is my least favorite scene actually out of all of them, but by the time I got to this scene, I kind of was a bit, I don't know, I was feeling fatigued about Indy and Raiders of the Lost Ark, so it's not the nicest looking one, but you know, it works pretty well. I give him a little head shake here. He pops up. With the eye, I just did a cell swap in the new drawing. I gave him a sort of black eye, sort of SpongeBob Square-esque, and a busted tooth. Now for head shakes, okay, head shakes. So for head shakes, I take one head rotation like this, and then one more front on, and then I in between the two, and then I in between the two, back and forth. So at the end of this scene, if you remember from the movie, he's surrounded by a bunch of native tribesmen, and they all have spears and bow and arrows and that, and instead of redrawing them, I just have the spears come in, and I added a blur node to it to give it a sense of depth of field. Yeah, there's not much acting going on in this scene. Gave it some dust effects. Okay then, yeah, I think that's it. That's right, that is it for today. Thanks for joining me. This was a long one, and I don't know if I like this format where I kind of just go over scenes. It saves me recording everything, and it saves space on my hard drive, but it's a bit boring, and it's a bit too spontaneous. I'm not that quick on the microphone to have a spontaneous, fun dialogue, so we'll see what happens next time. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Oh, by the way, check out my Patreon. It's $2 a month, or £2 a month, and I just post everything I'm doing on there, and you guys can support me that way. That'd be brilliant. Links in the description. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Cheers. Bye-bye.